We're at our second to last Colossus, and I want to look at the space that we're going to be engaged in once again, if only because it's really, really large. This isn't really a space where the Colossus is contained. It's actually something that's fallen off into the valley below. This space, it's grand architecture, but I can't figure out what to make of it again. This last part of the game, in terms of me sitting back and engaging in the semiotic experience, doesn't really have a lot of meat to it until I really get back towards the end of the game, the final boss, and all of the story content that follows. For now, I'm content looking at the Colossi and just sort of examining them as gameplay experiences. So here I actually have to go all the way through that space, and it's very strange because I'm actually going to have to go to the other end of the arena once more. This is Argus. Argus, to the best of my recollection of Greek mythology, is a hundred-eyed or multi-eyed sort of beast that I think Hera used to look over someone, maybe Io. I'm not up to my Greek mythology the same way I was back when I was in college. This is another environmental puzzle. Most things are, but this one, I don't remember how I figured it out when I first played the game. The space is so large, and you think that maybe it's another encounter that's like, I don't know, Gaius, where it has to swing down its sword, and maybe you jump on the sword. You can definitely use your own sword to see where the weak point is. It's, of course, right up on the head, and you need to find a way up there. The issue is that Argus has a lot of sort of armor and other militarized image. With Gaius, we had that before, and we also have it again with Argus. Argus is really aggressive. Gaius was too, but Argus is in a way that I think is actually a little bit more aggressive. He's going to destroy or alter a lot of the space that we're in, and that's the way that we're generally going to succeed in this fight. It's strange, though. Gaius didn't seem to have much intelligence or will of his own. I would actually say that Argus, in terms of a human colossi, has a certain amount of expression. We'll see this again with the final colossi, too, or even though that one gets into some really weird territory. But here, maybe it's just the design of the mask, I'm not entirely sure. I get a feeling that this Colossus is definitely aware of what's going on. If Argus is to be understood as another type of guardian, it's really, really strong. At least in terms of imagery. It's very interesting to look at, has lots of armor, and just sort of has a look in its eyes, even though Colossi eyes don't really shift that much, that you can't really explain. Here I'm pretty sure we need to have Argus attack again. I need to climb up even higher. And the issue is, without any of the environment up above me falling down, I can't get there. The problem is I need to make him swing his sword. I think I might have it here. So now if we turn around, we have architecture that we can climb up. It's sort of like the last boss fight, except not with as much, bullshit. This one, once you understand sort of what you have to do, it is something that you can navigate. You need to goad it around. It will constantly attack, but even though you might occasionally fall down the space like I did here, you never really have to worry about what happens when you fall entirely. It's easy to get back up into this space. Even though you might have to go to Argus again to stamp his feet and reveal another pathway, once you're up here, you're generally in the right spot. You climb up these stairs, and you're on your way to sort of finishing off the creature. The hardest part is actually going to be figuring out where its second sigil is, and really, if you don't use the sword, which is a tool that I always forget to use a lot of the time, you're not really going to figure out where it is. In fact, when I show you where it is, I think you're going to be actually fairly surprised. Of course, if I go through certain processes, I might fall down and have to repeat everything that's going on. Because Argus is going to destroy these bridges in a second. Argus, Barba, and Zenobia are really the only Colossi that destroy a lot of the space. Phaedra attacks it, but never really destroys it. But here we have a very strong and very dramatic destruction of this pillar, or excuse me, this bridge. And so now we have to use the architecture to jump to where we want to go. It's a bit of a dangerous jump, and I might actually end up on the mask instead of the head. Alright, we're where we want to go, so that's something at least. Once you're on Argus, it's not too bad. And yes, I know, a lot of this has sort of veered into Let's Play territory again. But I promise you, when we get to the end of the story, we're going to have a lot to digest. Both in terms of the images that are going to appear, and also the possible connections to Eco. Although I'll admit that's a game I haven't played in a long time, so my information might be a little off. I do like the stakes of this encounter. Falling has a certain amount of real danger to it, even though it's really just about wasting time. That's the case with many Colossi, but here you actually have to move down, and it's really dangerous to do so. That's because the actual next weak point that we have to attack is in Argus's hand. But that hand holds a weapon, so we actually have to move and attack this minor sigil. The first time you're playing this, I don't know how you're supposed to figure that out. Certainly you can use the sword and figure out that the weak point is in the hand, but then you have to figure out how to make it drop the damn sword. We've never had a Colossus drop its weapon before now. Valus held on to its club. Gaius's sword was actually a part of its body. And so now we run into the issue of trying to manipulate the Colossus again. It's dropped its sword and we need it to sort of grab at us with its hand, but it might just stomp at us over and over. It's hard to judge the distance to make a Colossus do the things that you want. That's sort of been a common gameplay thing that we've seen here during these playthroughs. So, it's approaching me, but I have no guarantee that it's going to use its hand. Although it seems to be knocking us down. Yeah, there we go. We can jump right into the hand. Although, damn it, I missed it. It doesn't stay down there for long, which is a sort of problem. I don't mind this encounter too much, though. It's really about testing your reaction time. If I can get there while the hand is down, good for me. If not, I have plenty of chances to still do it. You just have to be careful that the force of the fist slamming in the ground doesn't knock you all about. I think we're going to have it slam again, and we just have to move to the side a little bit. And now we can jump into the hand. Oh no, I missed it again. Like I said, I'm keeping in all of the general failures of this last section of the game. If the first part of the playthrough was very smooth, it's because the first part of the game is a little easier to navigate. Here, you understand the puzzles, but you also just have to be a little faster. And actually, the camera is sort of being a big problem right now. But we're where we need to go. Now the trick is just sort of making sure we... Oh no! Oh no! We're falling again! Dear gosh. Let's get in that hand. A sentence I'm probably never going to use again. Here we go. You can see, though, failure against the Colossus, or at least against certain Colossi, isn't that big of a deal, at least when you've weakened them. When we weakened Gaius, it wasn't that big of a problem, and here with Argus, even though it was a little embarrassing that I had so much trouble getting onto that hand, it really wasn't that bad of a process. So now there's only one Colossus left, and it's been a very exciting journey. As we move into the last section, we're going to analyze the last boss pretty heavily. We're going to look at the effect that the journey has had on Wander, and then we'll probably end with the ending cutscene as its own section. and maybe add a supplement where we climb to the top of the Shrine of Worship. One boss, though. We're almost there. Really, I love most of the encounters of this game. Only the 14th Colossus is the one that I really don't care for. Even Phaedra, who I found a little difficult to deal with, is an interesting designed encounter. I said interesting again, by the way. Interesting, interesting, interesting. If you're playing the game, you just had a couple of shots, and I hope you're okay. If you don't drink, that's fine. I like to think that the finally that Dorman is saying there is actually less of a, hey, this is the last thing, and sort of a finally type thing, you know what I mean? But it notes that somebody is going to stand in our way. Presumably it's the group of sort of tribal individuals we saw before. So we have to make time and get to the last Colossus very fast. We've generally had a struggle between gods and humans, or at least giant mythical creatures and humans. But towards the end of the game, we're going to shift from sort of man against nature or man against God and go back to a human versus human conflict. But we'll talk about that when the time comes. That was Argus. We had a little bit of trouble, as we've had with some of the last couple of boss fights, but still, I think showing that off impresses the fact that this game, while great, still has some flaws, particularly when it comes to the mechanics and how you control your character. It both makes you feel small and has a certain pressure upon you, but it can also just generate flat-out annoyance. Anyway, we'll move on to the last Colossus and have ourselves a grand time analyzing everything that's going on. I hope to see you there. Be safe until then. Bye.